Hey y'all, this is Liberated Love Notes podcast on Living Corporate Network. You already know I am your host, Brittany Janay, creator of Liberated Love Notes, critical self-reflections and affirmations for the culture. Liberated Love Notes podcast is your source for weekly doses of self-reflection, affirmation, and reimagining for us, by us. So y'all, I'm not going to be able to even get into this episode until I allow this very special person who is standing in front of me, waiting for an opportunity to share his voice. I'm not going to be able to get this recorded without giving him some space. And so I'm going very briefly turn over the mic to something like a co-host, and allow him to introduce himself.
My name is Braxton, and I am 6, and I'm a professional football player, and I am a basketball player, and I used to play soccer, but not anymore because I'm too old. But I am in kindergarten, and let me tell you what, I live in Maryland.
All right, baby. You did good. We're going to get into this, and we appreciate you, Braxton. We appreciate you. This is real life, y'all. I just want to get through this recording. That was my heart in human form. Braxton Henson. That's that y'all just experienced the real. Braxton's actually 5 and pre-kindergarten. But you know what they say about speaking things not just as they are, but as they shall be. And so my liberated little one. Y'all, it is Holy Week. Holy Weekend. For those who have a spiritual connection to the Christian faith, or the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus, it's a holy month for those who observe Ramadan. A season that feels holy, that feels divine, a season of reflection, certainly stillness. I used that language last episode. A season of sacrifice, a season of community for many. All of which feels significant to what you heard me describe as a season of transition for me. Good Friday, y'all, was my last day at an institution and a role that I've held for 6 years. Good Friday, divine. Good Friday represents for many, certainly death and mourning, but also fulfillment of a promise, a shift, a portal, something like a portal into a new day, a new way. If you grew up in the Black church, y'all, perhaps you remember or can recall or still do the services around the 7 sayings, or what some refer to as the last 7 words. Those words uttered and affirmed by Jesus as he experienced what was this long awaited prophecy, this shift, this transition, and all that came with it. Y'all, was reflecting on this heavy. I even went to, a Good Friday service fiance actually participated and is in ministry, and so participated in a service at the church we attend, Divine. I was reflecting on those sayings and just given the divinity of the timing of my transition, certainly of this episode, I thought I might just offer some reflections I've been having, some affirmations, maybe even end with a prayer, a petition, just based on my transition. The saying that was top of mind for me, or the word that was top of mind for me, was actually the first one, the very first saying. We're Black Jesus. We're Black Jesus petitions, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Y'all, a few months ago, I was on a video show, a vodcast with Dr. Nika White. Intentional Conversations is what the series is called. Was on a video show on the vodcast, and a Black woman towards the end asked us a question. She asked, how do you cope? How do you cope in spaces where you experience harm? She was talking about a different kind of special kind of harm. She said, and I ain't talking about harm by white folks, but like harm by our own. We agreed, and most folks agreed in chat that just hit different. That just hit different. When sis asked that question, y'all, I could feel the genuine inquiry. I could feel the loving curiosity. It wasn't even coming from a place of condemnation. I could also feel the pain and confusion. I empathized. I could relate. There is often so much focus on what white folks need to be doing in order for us to feel included, and I'm doing like the little quotation fingers, included and affirmed in spaces, which I get. There's a lot of work around, what white folks need to be doing so we can feel included and seen as human in their eyes. And what happens when the white face ain't in the room? I saw a tweet a while back that got at this very dynamic, right? In a season of transition, I've been like reflecting on that question. And for anyone in a season of transition, or for anyone who has, like sis described, experienced harm in community, how do you move on from spaces and places and people where, maybe there was harm, but you don't necessarily get to experience closure? Maybe there was no collective agreement on who was right or who was wrong. Maybe there was not capacity or capability to work towards reparation or restoration. I've been reflecting on how sometimes closure ain't even the goal. I would actually say pieces, and those just feel real different to me. When I think about closure, I think about or think it suggests resolution or resolve or agreement, or even agreement on disagreement. Sometimes closure might suggest feeling seen and heard, when sometimes that just ain't possible. Peace, though, I feel like peace hit a little different. I remember when, talk about transition, y'all, when I was carrying my son, and while I was carrying him, his father and I decided that this relationship it is not giving what it's supposed to give, nor is it fertile ground for what we want to create, the environment we want to create for our son. And so we decided we would co-parent. We would no longer pursue an intimate relationship, even though that was the right thing. It hit and it hurt, especially like just given the like emotions, the transition of coming into motherhood, carrying a child. I was distraught. I remember my father, shout out to my dad, y'all. I remember my father sharing with me, Britt, I want you to pray for peace. And he qualified the peace that he wanted me to pray for. He said, I want you to pray for the peace, the kind of peace that'll have you at peace when you should really be in pieces. I said, what? He said, I want you to pray for peace, the kind of peace that will have you experiencing peace when you should really be in pieces. And that resonated. When I think about that peace, I think about what it means to, amidst the difficult and the uncomfortable and the discomfort, feeling grounded. When I think about that peace, I think about what it means to, maybe have experienced harm, but also experiencing clarity, just this clarity, knowing and understanding and embodying this critical consciousness that allows me to like step back and out, maybe even take a bird's eye view, this posture that allows me, that allows us the awareness around and release of that which we do not control. Oh, peace. It ain't mine. It ain't mine to solve, to work, to fix. Peace. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. When sis asked that question, y'all, I shared that the more I've been able to take, particularly in conflict and in scenarios where I experience harm, in community with other Black folks, the more I've been able to take a trauma-informed approach to understanding intra-group dynamic, the more I've been able to cope, the more I've been able to experience peace. Even in this season of transition, it can be real tempting to lean into, well, what's wrong with them? And they just that way, and that's just how they are. I love it when Resmaa Menakem is a somatic abolitionist, clinical therapist, does a lot around race-based trauma. Resmaa offers a gem to us. Trauma decontextualized in an individual looks like personality. Trauma decontextualized in a group looks like culture. When I experience harm in community by other Black bodies, my posture is less of, that's just how they are and what is wrong with them, and instead, what may have happened? In what ways are their unhealed traumas being perhaps projected in our relationship, and maybe in how they be? And they not even know. And how do I hold myself accountable to embodying that level of awareness of how I show up? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. I saw this Instagram post the other day, y'all, that was like, learn the difference between your intuition and spirit guiding you and your trauma misleading you. And it resonated. I was like, I think I may have even threw it in my story. Spirit, in my experience, right? Spirit and intuition, even when things aren't pleasant, even when they are less than ideal, even when the scenario ain't given what you feel like it need to be given. Spirit and intuition, I feel like promises peace. Trauma will have us in this constant posture of unease and worry and defense, questioning oneself. I am legit in real time, actively disrupting that for myself. Shout out to those with whom I am in loving community and my therapists. In my season of transition, I am mindful that there is 400 years plus of charge, of harm in our bodies caused by the vertical trauma we've experienced at the hands of racism and white supremacy, being in spaces where we are told that we don't belong, are unworthy, devalued, told that there can only be one, that if unhealed, unchecked, unmetabolized, will absolutely end up being projected on others. Now, one of my sister homie friends, Tammy Jackson, hey Tammy, spoke some real truth to me, y'all. She like, yeah, I'm with your woo-woo, I'm with the trauma. I felt something like loving accountability when she said, I get it. Trauma is real. And it is a gross negligence to be working in certain capacities, healers, change makers, leaders, DEI practitioners, and not be in therapy, not be actively engaged in one's own healing. Sis, I think you wanted something. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. There's also a liberated love note out the deck. There's a liberated love note out the deck. And when I say deck, y'all, I'm talking about the affirmation and critical reflections card deck. Where it reads, I am mindful enough to recognize. Oh, no, you know what? I'm not going to read that one. I think there is a better one. There is a better one. Here it is. I am loving, gracious, and invested in the growth of those with whom I am in community. And I will not internalize or own others' work as my own. They are not my work. It's giving clarity. It is giving peace. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. In the spirit of divine proclamation, provocation, petition, and in the spirit of me ending this episode, I'm going to conclude with an opportunity for us to touch and agree. Something like a prayer, an affirmation. I am told, right, by way of the Bible, that if two or more touch and agree, it is done, right? It is done. We're going to close with an affirmation, a prayer that offers us possibility for reimagining how we show up in community, in spaces where maybe we've experienced harm, in seasons of transition, a call for loving accountability. I'm going to ask y'all literally, and I'm going to pause in between so you can pray, petition, write along with me. I'm telling y'all, when two or more touch and agree, it is done. I mean, we get if I recall, a good like 200 listeners a week. So we can make magic. It go a little something like this. God and our ancestors, grant us with the clarity, consciousness, and commitment to loving accountability to engage in the work that allows us to fully reimagine how we be in community with each other. We know these systems of oppression run deep, and trauma is real. Still, we deserve to unlearn, heal, remember, and as our ancestor Bell Hooks calls for us to, return to love. Grant us with the fortitude and resilience that we're often forced to activate in harmful white spaces to work through this work, a beautiful work that invites us to retire the master's tools for our own divine toys so we can truly reimagine different. Amen. And Ashe. I catch y'all next week.